War is hell, they say, and in the crucible of combat, the bonds of loyalty can be stretched to their breaking point. Fragging stands as a chilling testament to this grim reality, a term that sends shivers down the spines of military commanders and historians alike. It speaks of a breakdown in the very fabric of military order, a betrayal of the oath to protect and serve alongside your comrades. In essence, fragging describes the deliberate killing or attempted killing of a fellow soldier, typically an officer, by a member of their own unit. The term itself, grimly evocative, originated during the Vietnam War and is believed to derive from the fragmentation grenades, or frags, readily available to soldiers in the field. These grenades, small enough to be concealed and requiring a simple pull of a pin to activate, became a tragically convenient tool for acts of violence within the ranks. While the Vietnam War brought fragging into sharp focus, the phenomenon itself is not unique to that conflict. History is unfortunately replete with examples of soldiers turning on their own, driven to desperate measures by a toxic mix of fear, resentment, and despair. From the trenches of World War I to the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan, the seeds of fragging have found fertile ground wherever the pressures of war test the limits of human endurance. The act of fragging is a stark reminder that war is not merely a clash of armies, but a deeply human drama, fraught with moral complexities and agonizing choices. It forces us to confront the dark side of human nature, the brutalizing effects of conflict, and the fragility of the bonds that hold soldiers together in the face of unimaginable stress. To comprehend the chilling act of fragging, one must delve into the crucible of war, where fear and fury simmer. Soldiers thrust into life-or-death scenarios may resort to fragging for a multitude of reasons, each more harrowing than the last. Often, fragging stems from a deep-seated resentment towards officers perceived as incompetent or reckless with their lives. In the chaotic theatre of war, a poorly judged order can have lethal consequences, and soldiers witnessing the needless deaths of their comrades may direct their rage towards those they deem responsible. This sense of injustice, coupled with the ever-present fear for one's own life, can transform resentment into murderous intent. Adding fuel to the fire is the dehumanizing nature of war itself. Prolonged exposure to violence, sleep deprivation, and the constant threat of death can erode moral boundaries, making acts of violence, even against one's own, seem tragically commonplace. The battlefield can become a moral vacuum where survival trumps all other considerations. Furthermore, racial tensions, particularly prevalent during the Vietnam War, played a grim role in fueling fragging incidents. The war, often seen as a white man's war fought by black and brown soldiers, exacerbated existing racial divides within the ranks. This, combined with the perception that African American soldiers were disproportionately assigned to dangerous missions, created a volatile atmosphere, making acts of violence against white officers a terrifying reality. It is crucial to understand that fragging is not simply a case of isolated individuals snapping under pressure. It is often a symptom of deeper systemic issues within the military, from inadequate leadership to racial tensions and the psychological toll of combat. Addressing these root causes is essential to preventing future tragedies. The Vietnam War, a brutal and divisive conflict, witnessed a surge in fragging incidents, etching the term into the annals of military history. The jungles of Vietnam, rife with unseen enemies and booby traps, provided a fertile ground for the seeds of discontent to grow into deadly violence. The nature of the Vietnam War itself contributed to the rise in fragging. Unlike previous conflicts with clearly defined front lines, the Vietnam War was a guerrilla war, fought in dense jungles and populated areas. This constant proximity to the enemy, coupled with the ever-present threat of booby traps and ambushes, created a climate of fear and paranoia, pushing some soldiers to the brink. Furthermore, the use of the draft in the Vietnam War brought in a generation of young men who felt alienated from the war's objectives. Many questioned the war's purpose and resented being forced to fight in a distant land for a cause they didn't believe in. This disillusionment, coupled with the horrors they witnessed, made some soldiers question the authority of their officers, particularly those perceived as gung-ho or indifferent to the risks faced by their men. The widespread availability of fragmentation grenades, from which the term fragging is derived, sadly provided a readily available means for soldiers to act on their anger and frustration. These small, easily concealable explosives became a symbol of the breakdown in discipline and the deep-seated resentment that festered within some units. The Vietnam War serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of war, not just in terms of enemy casualties, but also the psychological toll it takes on those who fight. The fragging incidents of that era stand as a chilling testament to the fact that the true horrors of war are often not confined to the battlefield. The act of fragging presents a moral quagmire, a murky battleground where personal survival clashes with notions of duty and camaraderie. Soldiers contemplating such a drastic act grapple with a torrent of emotions, questioning whether it represents a perverse form of justice or a descent into the abyss of revenge. For some, fragging might appear as a last resort, a desperate attempt to protect themselves and their comrades from an incompetent or reckless officer. They might argue that eliminating such an officer, even through an act of violence, serves a greater good by increasing the chances of survival for the rest of the unit. This warped sense of utilitarianism, however, ignores the fundamental tenets of military law and the sanctity of human life. Others might see fragging as a form of retribution, a way to avenge the needless deaths of their friends at the hands of an officer's poor judgment. The desire for revenge, potent and intoxicating, can cloud judgment, leading individuals down a path of no return. It transforms them into judge, jury, and executioner, bypassing due process and succumbing to the basest of human instincts. However, rationalizing fragging as a form of justice or revenge is a dangerous and slippery slope. It undermines the chain of command, erodes trust within the ranks, and ultimately degrades the very fabric of military discipline. Soldiers are not empowered to take the law into their own hands, no matter how dire the circumstances. The decision to frag is never taken lightly. It is born out of desperation, fueled by fear and anger, and often clouded by the fog of war. Understanding the motivations behind fragging is not about condoning it, but rather about acknowledging the complex realities of war and the immense pressure placed upon those who fight. Gap 3S. The aftermath of fragging is a haunting testament to its profound impact on individuals and units alike. For those who commit the act, the immediate sense of relief or justice is often fleeting, replaced by a lingering shadow of guilt and remorse. The weight of their actions can bear down heavily, leading to psychological scars that may never fully heal. These soldiers might struggle with their conscience, haunted by the faces of those they believed they were saving and the life they took in the process. For the unit, the repercussions are equally severe. The fragging incident can sow seeds of distrust, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and paranoia. Soldiers might begin to question the loyalty of their comrades and the integrity of their leaders, fracturing the unity that is vital for military cohesion. The ripple effects can extend beyond the immediate unit, impacting the broader military community and potentially influencing policies and training programs. Military leadership often faces a difficult task in addressing fragging incidents. They must balance the need for justice and accountability with the understanding of the extreme conditions under which soldiers operate. Investigations are launched, courts-martial convened, and sentences handed down, all in an effort to uphold military law and order. Yet the underlying issues that led to the fragging, poor leadership, unbearable stress, and the brutal realities of combat, remain complex challenges that require ongoing attention and reform. Ultimately, the story of fragging is a sobering reminder of the darkest corners of human nature, brought to the forefront by the extremities of war. It underscores the importance of strong, compassionate leadership, rigorous training, and a support system that addresses the mental and emotional well-being of soldiers. Only by understanding and addressing these factors can the military hope to prevent such tragic incidents in the future. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more insightful content on historical events and military history.